Hey, everybody, how you doing? Well, that's good. Welcome to the PHLY Flyers Pregame Show presented by Coors Light. Visit CoorsLight.com/PHLY Hockey to get Coors Light delivered or to find a store near you. My name is Bill Matz. I'm your Director of Fun and Games for the evening. Joining me tonight, virtually, it's Philadelphia's #1 hockey beat writer. It is Charlie O'Connor. What's going on today, Chuck?
Bill, I have to ask, are you sleeping with the championship belt? Has it left your side since it was given to you yesterday afternoon?
This is like my Red Ryder BB gun. I've been like just kind of carrying it around, and
Yes.
it's been pretty great. I was saying to Brenna before we went live, I need to reconfigure my like home studio area so I have somewhere to be able to display it, because it is quite hefty. It's tough to just sit there and hold for a little while.
Yeah, if you're going to have a display case for that, you got to build something pretty sturdy to hold it up.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just going to be command strips. It's going to have to be something substantial.
Indeed.
Charlie, we are here tonight, and joining us, I guess, for the game, will be Matvei Michkov. He will not be in a suit. He will not be scratched. There was a lot of speculation by us yesterday, by everybody on social media. Lots of fans after John Tortorella sat Michkov for the entirety of the third period, including a couple of power plays, that the benching would carry over in the back-to-back to tonight's game in LA. But we got confirmation a few hours ago, not the case. Lineup will remain the same, except Kolosov comes in net for Ersson, and it'll be Michkov presumably out there with Owen Tippett and Morgan Frost. We'll wait to see the lines when they get announced in a little bit. But are you surprised here?
I am mildly surprised. Yeah, as I say in the tweet that we're staring at right now, I'm mildly surprised because the setup did seem very similar to the last time he got scratched, where he was benched for a long stretch of time in the third period. In the game leading up to it, they were on the road. He wasn't playing that well in the lead up. It did strike me as a very similar situation. But I think the big difference, and this is obviously something that we couldn't talk about on the show because we were not getting quotes from John Tortorella when we were doing the show. John Tortorella spoke after the game. He was asked, obviously, about Michkov not playing in the third. He was asked about it, and he, rather than give a terse explanation, basically saying, yeah, he's not playing well, he went into a long explanation. And he more or less said he just thinks Michkov, the schedule's catching up to him. He just doesn't have the same jump. I think there was a hope that maybe he would have that jump coming out of the break. But hey, they did do a cross-country flight, whatever. The hope was that he would have more jump. He doesn't have the jump. And John Tortorella more or less said, look, there are going to be times we're going to sit him if we just don't think he has the energy. It's going to be hard for him. It seemed like a very, the right word I think is empathetic response rather than angry. I think if he was angry, Michkov would be scratched today. But the fact that it's more like he feels bad for him, or at least that's the way he's presenting it to the public, and given the fact that it's John Tortorella, I think he more or less, especially right after a game, basically says exactly what he's feeling. I think that they believe this isn't a case of Michkov willfully ignoring instructions or not listening to coaching. I think they just believe he's in a slump and they're going to play him out of it. So maybe at some point he gets scratched if they think that he needs a break. But it doesn't seem like this is punitive, which is good, I think. Because if it was punitive and they were annoyed with him, then you wonder about the relationship between player and coach. I'm sure Michkov wasn't thrilled not getting to play in the third period of Saturday's game. But it doesn't seem like this is because of a conflict. And if it was because of a conflict, then I think he would be scratched tonight. The fact that it seems like it's more, well, we need to help him through this while he's got some dead legs. They're going to help him through it, and they're going to be more empathetic, and they're going to maybe not, press the emergency button and scratch it.
Yeah, and I saw Kevin Kurz put out like the full quote of John Tortorella's explanation on Blue Sky earlier, and it was really like, if Mish was scoring, like, yeah, he's just not very good at defense. He's just not very good off the puck. It's not something he's ever had to do. Like, he's 20 years old, and he's out there holding his own and then some against NHL players. most of his life, he was the best player on the ice, probably never had to play without the puck a ton, and they're just having to bring him along. But the thing I found most fascinating about Tortorella's answer was if he's scoring, like if he's going the way he was even just a couple of weeks ago, I might have him out there in a 1-1 game to see if we can extend this lead 2-1, 3-1. But since he has the defensive struggles and we're bringing him along slowly, and it's going to take a lot of time, like this is a more than 1 year project, John Tortorella said. Since he doesn't have that offensive jump right now, and we know he struggles defensively, I'm just not going to put him in a position to fail. And listen, we, the fans, might not like that. I know I want to see him play and play through it. And it's like, well, in a rebuild, you're put in positions where you sink or swim. And if you fail, you learn. Not playing, like I said yesterday, I don't think hurts him in the long run, but I also don't see it how it helps. But once you get into we've said before, like he's coming up on tonight's game 35. I think he played like 50 games last year. And that's in the KHL, not exactly the physical league the NHL is. When you look at what the schedule has been, how he's never really gone through the 3s and 4s and, the 6 and 8s and all those sorts of things that just have been a regular part of this Flyers schedule, all the back-to-backs they've had. It all kind of adds up to make a little bit more sense than like after the game, we're just upset about it yesterday because we want to see Matvei Michkov. I still don't know if I agree with the benching, but it's one of those, if I can see your thought process and you go through Tortorella didn't just blow it off and go none of your business, I'm the coach, that's why. Like if he does that, then I'm just like, well, he's being a jerk. Like that's Torts.
Which is more or less what he did when he scratched him for those 2 games.
When he gives you thoughtful Torts and gives you a little look into what it is, you go, okay, I can at least see the thought process.
I had an interesting conversation today with a few of the people in our Discord. PHLY Discord, join, become a diehard, you enjoy the Discord. But the conversation was about the Michkov situation. This was before we knew he was playing tonight. I think the general assumption was that he was going to be scratched, so we were kind of using that as an overarching jumping off point. But I made the same point that I made on postgame, where as a fan, you need to make the decision. Are you mad because you just want to see him play, or are you mad because you think this is actively hurting him? And I forget who it was, but somebody on Discord made a really good point that I think articulates why a lot of people get frustrated when Michkov gets benched or scratched or just in general jerked around by John Tortorella. It's not that people think that Michkov is already a superstar. It's not that they think that he's perfect and he's, he should be getting 20, 25 minutes a night because he's great. It's that there's a belief, and I get where this belief is coming from, because there is so much hype around Michkov and there's so much excitement. There is a belief that even if he's not a superstar yet, that is the inevitable outcome to all of this. And any time that is spent with him on the bench or in the press box or whatever is just making it take longer for him to get to that point, because it doesn't matter what coaching is done to Michkov. He is eventually going to become a superstar. And John Tortorella's belief that this is doing anything is ridiculous, because in reality, in 3-4 years, Michkov is going to be great, whether John Tortorella coached him hard or coached him soft or whatever. And I think that does drive a lot of the frustration, because it's like, what are you doing? He's going to be great. Just let him cook. The thing is that an NHL head coach is just never going to agree.
No,
with
that's
but
not.
But I do think that is a lot of the feeling of fans who think Michkov is great, and that well, he's just going to be great, so get the heck out of his way.
And I guess I get that, but I also I just want to see him play. Honestly, I don't care about the rest. I bet you he can figure it out, because he is that good. That said, I don't think this slows it down. I don't think on, a Saturday, December 28th game in his rookie year, he played 9 minutes instead of 18. And so therefore we have to wait an extra year for him to become a 100-point guy. I don't think I necessarily agree that it's slowing him down at all. I do think there are ways to, he's going to be great at scoring points. He's absolutely going to put up a ton of power play points. He's going to do all the stuff we want from high-end offensive players. But there is a possibility Tortorella can turn him into at least an effective, above-average 200-foot player.
Yeah.
And while that's not as sexy as, oh, yeah, just have 130 points, dude. Defense leads to offense. We see it all the time. It's kind of this team's strategy. Make a defensive play, take it the other way. That's half of how they score. Like, if he can contribute to that more than being the guy who gets the outlet pass, that will eventually lead to more scoring. So I do think there's something to Tortorella doing it this way, or at least coaching him up. But I don't know if taking away the ice time gets you there any faster. Like that,
it might not get you there any faster. And I don't necessarily think that the people who are anti messing with Michkov believe that it slows down the development. I think their belief is that, like, regardless of whether John Tortorella scratches Michkov or plays him 25 minutes a night, he's going to become a superstar stud at a time designated in the future. And regardless of what John Tortorella does, that's going to happen. So in the interim, why are you depriving us from watching him? Because you're the general belief from the people that are the most angry about this is the belief that what John Tortorella does doesn't actually matter. That Matvei Michkov is going to become Matvei Michkov regardless of whether it's John Stevens coaching him or John Tortorella. And the only difference between the two is that John Tortorella will create drama and deprive fans of watching Michkov during the developmental period. Look, I don't necessarily agree with that. I'm just saying that at least makes sense to me as a reason for why people get very angry when Michkov gets scratched, because it's like, this isn't helping. Is it hurting? Unclear. But regardless of what Tortorella does and what he doesn't do, Michkov is going to become Michkov in 2 years. So why not just don't do it to him so we don't have to deal with this crap? I think that is the underlying belief. I do.
And I do think that's a lot of, we always say, like, new regimes carry, like, the fans don't change. You can say you're new and you're doing something different. We have a different plan. But the fans carry the scars of, like, hey, man, we've been told a lot of dudes were going to turn out, and it's our development that's going to get them there. And then it's just like, it ain't, it just hasn't turned out. And we've heard this from coaches, like, I'm going to make this guy a better player. And maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But I think John Tortorella does have a track record of it works pretty well. Like, certainly there are guys who disagree, but there's a lot of really good players in this league that would tell you, even if they didn't see it at the time, it worked. I think stressing in Tortorella's statement, that this is all being explained to him. This isn't one of those, like,
it's right.
Hey, I benched you, get over it situations. Like, they're sitting down with the interpreter and they're making sure it's like, we aren't trying to hurt the relationship. We're not trying to be petty with you. Like, this is just how we're coaching this team, and it's how everyone gets treated. And honestly, like, listen, man, we saw Joel Farabee get one shift in a game and then sit there for 59.5 minutes, like, with his thumb up his ass. Like, we saw the captain get named captain and a month later scratched. Now, like, is that going to make Sean Couturier a better player? I don't know. Like, he's 30. But still, it's how the whole team gets coached, and he's going to be held to a certain standard. A lot of people were just not on board with the Tortorella experience to begin with, and this is part of it.
That is 100% true. There are a lot of people
part of it, and I understand why.
Yeah, there are a lot of people who just think that the whole idea of scratching guys to generate a positive reaction and make guys better, they just think that's dumb. And they're going to think that's especially dumb now that it's happening to a player that they actually care about, as opposed to a bunch of guys that people have been angry at for the last 5 years.
Yeah, no, like, he scratches Sanheim in his hometown. It's like, yeah, it's kind of an a-hole move, but also, who are you to demand this ice time, Travis Sanheim? Like,
people were real angry. We're real angry at the individual players. About 2 years ago. I think that anger has dissipated a little bit, but I mean, I remember you, William Matz, after John Tortorella got hired, basically saying, I want these players to be miserable. I want them to be as miserable as I am watching this team.
No, I wanted the punishment. Like, oh, you just sitting there, locker rooms all happy, everyone's collecting their money. We're all best buds, even though we never make the playoffs. Time to shape up real quick. And I appreciated that job of making the players a little bit more miserable and feel losses maybe the way we feel them. And I always wanted Jim Montgomery. I knew it was going to be one of two guys. It was going to be Rick Tocchet or John Tortorella. And so I kind of made my peace with that. Like, that's what happened. But I did like the idea of kind of taking our frustration out on the guys now. But now we like some of the players, Charlie. Right. Things have changed.
That's the difference.
Some dudes have stepped up and looked good recently. And it's, oh, we have this new shiny toy in Matvei Michkov. Now you're taking him away from us. I want to talk a little bit more about him in a second, because there is that bit that John Tortorella put in there. He ain't scoring, and he's not. And that's, for better or worse, he has to. But first, before we get more into that, it's time for tonight's bets. This pregame pick segment is brought to you by Bet365. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 and physically located in PA. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, we are going to start with the total over tonight. Total goals over 5.5. These two teams met, I think, 10 days ago, and we got a 10-goal game between them, 7-3 for the Kings. Kolosov got lit up. I think the Flyers offense might be due to put a little something together. TK hasn't scored in 5 games. You know that's going to end eventually. Maybe tonight's the night. Mish starts to bounce back a little bit offensively. I could see this getting a little loose. 4 of the last 5 Flyers games have hit 9 or more goals. I think 5.5 is a low number. We're going to take that. And give me that Matvei Michkov over 1.5 shots on goal, also at -105. He's had 2+ shots in 20 of 34 games this season. And even during this drought, 7 games without a point, he's hit 2 or more shots on goal in 5 of those 7 games. I think this is it's usually a 2.5 number. When I see it at little juice -105 and the number down at 1.5 shots, absolutely let's take a shot on Mish to at least get a few pucks on net tonight along with the over. But Charlie, pucks on net is one thing. Last 7 games, no points. He does have the 17 shots on goal. He has had some games where it's like, yeah, he could have had a point here or there. It just didn't work out. He's -11 with 6 penalty minutes, and he's averaging about 15 minutes of ice time. And you look at the first 27 games, he was a point-a-game player, over 17 minutes a night. He was actually +5 right before the streak really got going here. He has to be better. And it's like not an indictment of what I'm saying he's going to be or even how the rest of the season's going to turn out, his Calder odds, whatever. He just has to play better. Like, there's a really easy way for him not to worry about getting benched. And by easy, like, I'm being sarcastic. Like, scoring and playing well in the NHL is something only a handful of people on earth can do. But if he wants to play 17, 18, 20 minutes, play better, score, and you'll be out there. That's what happened early in the season. It hasn't happened in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. I mean, I thought one thing that that I did like, because I was keeping a close eye when I was watching the broadcast when we were at Heroes on Saturday, for when he would pop up on the bench. And one thing I very much liked to see was after Farabee scores the empty netter, there was a shot of the bench, and Michkov is celebrating with his teammates. He's got a big smile on his face. This is a guy who hasn't played for 18 straight minutes. He's been out the entire period. I like the fact that he wasn't, team's about to win the game. I like the fact that he wasn't sulking. I like the fact that he looked genuinely happy that the team won, despite the fact that he functionally was benched for a third of the game. I like that, and that tells me that he's going to get it going at some point. I don't know when. It might be tonight. It might be in 2 nights when they play the Macklin Celebrinis. It could be. But I do think he's going to get it going. I think he's got the right attitude here. I'm happy that John Tortorella didn't scratch him. I am. Because as long as he's, in my opinion, as long as he is healthy, and by healthy, I even mean like not physically exhausted, but as long as he is healthy And as long as he is not showcasing an actively bad attitude towards either his teammates or the coaching staff or both, I want him to play. To me, you pull him out of the lineup if he is willfully ignoring coaching or being a dick to his teammates, or if you just figure he's completely out of gas, he needs 2 days off just to reset. Yeah. Those are reasons where I am fine with scratching him. If you're scratching him just because you're mad he's not scoring, well, guess what? Guys go on slumps. And you know what? You ran Joel Farabee out there for a month when he couldn't buy a goal. So that's not a good enough reason to scratch him.
You put him on the top line.
Yeah, if it was something punitive, if there was something where they've been telling him for a week, you got to do this thing, and then he goes out there and ignores it, then I get it. You want to try to get through to the guy. But if you're just scratching him because he's not scoring, I don't think that's a good enough reason. Hopefully at some point there's a game that pops up where first period he's flying around and then everybody can see that he's back. And then he gets 2 goals and everybody's happy. That's what I'm hoping ultimately happens in the situation.
All right, I just saw about a few minutes ago, Jackie Spiegel did tweet the lines for tonight. We have Coots between Tippett and Konechny. Cates, Forster, Brink stays together. We have Frost centering Lawton and Michkov and Farabee still down there with Paling and Hathaway.
Interesting.
York, Sandheim, Zamula, Ristolainen, Sealer, Drysdale, and of course Kolosov starting. So we have a little mix and match there with Lawton on that Frost's left wing with Michkov. We'll see how that goes. Listen, Lawton's been picking up points, so maybe he's the elixir. Maybe he's the guy who gets it going.
Lawton is now actually the 5th leading scorer on the Philadelphia Flyers with 19 points.
Of course he is.
Yeah.
Real quick, just about the goalies, because this is a conversation we had like a week or two ago. Last back-to-back situation they were in. And yesterday we see Sam Ersson go out, and he needed it as bad as any goalie on the team. He plays really well, but he does so against a Ducks team that's really bad and never scores. They're last in the league in goals per game. They're not a good team. Now we have Kolosov going out in the second game of a back-to-back against an LA Kings team that lit him up for 6 goals on 26 shots just 10 days ago. And I mentioned that previous back-to-back, that game he got lit up by the Kings, followed the Detroit game. Of course, Kings a lot better than Detroit. And Kolosov played really well against Detroit like a couple of days before that. And you kind of gave the lesser opponent to the supposed number one goalie in both situations. Like Sam Ersson has struggled this year, no doubt about it. But we've talked a lot. Like he's the number one. He's the number one goalie. John Tortorella reiterated that a couple of days ago. Wouldn't the number one conventionally get the tougher matchup in these situations?
Not necessarily, because you could position it the way you're positioning it makes sense. You say, okay, you have 2 matchups, you have the tougher matchup, you give the better goalie the tougher matchup. On the other side, you could say that doesn't the better goalie usually get the first start coming out of a break? Isn't it that number 1 goes first, number 2 goes second? Isn't that traditionally the way it goes? I would say, yeah, traditionally that is the way it goes. Now, Bill, I understand your logic, and maybe from a pure game theory standpoint, it would have made more sense to go with whoever you think is the better goalie. But here's my opinion of why I totally like the way they did it.
Okay.
I think Ersson more than Kolosov needed the confidence boost. And to me, so much of his issues were probably in his head, him just kind of spiraling a little bit the same way he did at the end of last season. To me, giving him the game against the team with less firepower, that was the smart play because you need to get him right. And throwing him in there against LA, a team that comes at you in waves, that plays a heavy game. I mean, they're a big team. That to me wasn't the right way to hopefully start to build his confidence back up. Now, does this put Kolosov in a tough spot? Yeah, it does. But you know what? The backups often get thrown into tough spots. That's part of the job of being a backup. That comes with the territory. You get the second game of a back-to-back, even if it's a tough matchup, even if you're playing against a team that had rest the night before. This is just part of the job of a backup, and the backup has to find a way to push through and still deliver a solid performance. To me, it was the right move, but I don't totally agree with your opinion that this is telling. To me, it's a combination of usually the starter gets the first game in a back-to-back, the number one, and then number two, I think if there was any consideration about, well, who we play him against, Ersson needed the confidence boost more than Kolosov did. So give him the easier game.
I don't necessarily think, I don't know if I'd say it's telling. I just think maybe it's like, and coming out of the break does make it different. Like, oh, we just had 4 or 5 days off and we're going with the backup to start. Like, that's odd too. So when you look at it from a conventional sense, I guess it's like kind of 50-50 the way I'm coming at it. But I just wanted to see what you thought. Listen, it's all hindsight. And just because he played poorly against the Kings a week ago, 10 days ago, doesn't mean he might pitch a shutout tonight. Who is to say? Of course, now that I said it, I have jinxed it in Kelly Hinkle's mind.
And they got the win against Anaheim. So
yeah,
that worked out. Even if you lose this game tonight, which they rightfully are the underdog, LA is a better team, much better in the standings, better on paper, and they're playing them in LA too on a road trip, which is obviously tough on the guys. Long road trip. These are tough games. They got the win. They got the one win, so it's not a disaster of a back-to-back. You've already banked that, and you've hopefully got Ersson back on the right track. So regardless whether you agree with it or not, I think it's worked out, even if Kolosov gives them a 5 spot tonight.
All right. Let's hit those super chats, Brenna. I think we have a couple. First one here. There we go. From Vio Noob. Let's effing go. Michkov better than Benchkov. Listen, we all just want to see him play, and I think that's where a lot of the frustration comes from. I understand the coaching points. I think there is some validity to the way John Tortorella does it. There's other ways, but we have this guy who does this thing, and he has a decent track record. It's frustrating. We want to see the dude play, but it's hard for me to really argue when he breaks it down the way he did, even though I just personally don't like it.
Fair.
All right, let's hit this next one here from Corey. Noah Cates keeps the goal streak going. You can get it at plus 550 at some books still. Check that out at Bet365. Noah Cates for you can go a 6 straight game here, Charlie, with a goal for Noah Cates?
I mean, I wouldn't bet it because it's really, really hard to score goals in 6 straight games. But Noah Cates has been awesome. So you know what? If you just want to ride it and see how long this train is going to stay on the tracks, Godspeed, Corey. Good luck.
If I could get like somehow like all 3 guys on that line to like at least a point for one of them, like that might be something to look into because they've been good and getting third line matchups. It's worked out very well for them. Really dig the Cates Forster Brink line. All right, this has been the PHLY Flyers pregame show presented by Coors Light. Visit CoorsLight.com/PHLY hockey to get Coors Light delivered or to find a store near you. Yes, it's Beanie Bill today. I realized my hair always gets stuck in my headphones, so to have the if I have the hat on, it actually saves me a whole lot of hair on my head, Charlie. Before we get out of here, I want to thank everyone who came out to Heroes, the watch party yesterday. It was a fantastic time up at the Heroes Bar in Glen Mills. We had some really good giveaways, watched a fun game, even without Michkov playing the third. So that was a great time. You need to always keep your eye on the events tab because there's always some cool community events, whether it's us with the Flyers or any of the beats at PHLY. We're always doing something cool. Watch parties, watch-alongs, takeovers. We have officially sold out the suite takeover for the Anaheim game, so thanks to everyone who bought tickets to that. It's going to be an awesome time as well. All right, Chuck, anything else before we get out of here?
No, I'm excited to see how the Flyers play in the second game of back-to-back. It's a really tough team. Be interesting to see.
Let's go, Mish. Let's get it going here. Show that coach he can never bench you again. All right. That's right. This is the PHLY Flyers pregame show presented by Coors Light. My name is Bill Matz. That's Charlie O'Connor. We will see you for postgame, so stay right here on the YouTube for that. And until then, let's go Flyers.